Happy Eid al-Maulud to our Muslim viewers, but certainly a happy holiday to everyone. Good morning. Welcome to this edition of Business Morning. On this holiday, it's still a good time to have 55 minutes of current and relevant business conversations, especially after yesterday. I'm Ini John Mekwa. Well, just before we get ahead of ourselves, let's see what's happening in the global oil price space, and we can say that prices rose nearly $1 on Wednesday as markets focus on supply tightness heading into winter and a soft landing for the U.S. economy. Brent crude futures rose 86 cents, that's about 0.9%, to $94.82 a barrel, while U.S. West Texas Intermediate crude futures climbed 86 cents to that's about 0.9% to $19.25. Industry data released on Tuesday showed U.S. crude oil stockpiles rose last week about 1.6 million barrels against analysts' expectations for a drop of about 300,000 barrels. However, markets continue to worry about U.S. crude stockpiles at the key crushing Oklahoma storage hub falling below minimum operating levels. Further drawdowns at Cushing and the delivery point for U.S. crude futures could also provide new upward pressure on oil market, as it would compound supply tightness stemming from supply cuts by Organization of Petroleum Exporting Countries and its ally, that's OPEC+, while some analysts expect refinery seasonal autumn maintenance will help build crude stocks a bit. Others worry that high export demand could draw barrels away. Exports of products already accepted by Russian railways and Transneft can go ahead, while higher sulfur gasoline and fuel used for bunkering will be exempt from the ban. We come to Nigeria now, where the Federal Accounts Allocation Committee have met in Abuja to share the August revenue for the federal, state and local government. However, details of the meetings is yet to be made known to journalists. At its last meeting in August, the FAAC shared a total of 966.1 billion naira to 3 tiers of government as federation allocation for July, out of a total gross domestic revenue of 1.74 trillion naira. And it's official. We have Dr. Olayemi Kadoso, former chairman of Citibank. He's now the governor of Nigeria's Central Bank. Mr. Kadoso and 4 deputy governor nominees, Mrs. Eme Musoro, Mr. Mohammed Datijo, and Mr. Philip Ikeazo, as well as Dr. Balabelu, were confirmed by the Senate yesterday. The lawmakers confirmed the Apex Bank chiefs after hours of screening during its resumed plenary after about a 2-month recess. The new CBN boss, speaking during the screening, promised to address the foreign exchange rate of Nigeria, which is a huge challenge, has been giving a lot of Nigerians concerns.
On the issue of foreign exchange rate, which everybody's been talking about, and naturally is very worrisome to everybody, very, very worrisome. It goes without saying, quite frankly, that for the sort of country we want, we do need to have an exchange rate that is stable. And quite frankly, there are short and medium-term measures, but I would say something about the short-term measures, because that really is what bothers most people today, understandably. Number one, it is that of what I would term an operational issue. Right now, we have a situation where, and we all know this, we can argue about the figures, the numbers, but we are aware that there are unsettled obligations by the central bank. We are aware there are unsettled obligations. Whether it's 4 billion, 5 billion, 7 billion, I don't know. But definitely the immediate priority will be to be able to verify the authenticity and the extent of what is owed. And then, of course, once we do that, we need to promptly find a way to take care of that. Number two, apart from the operational, there's one that is more system-related. And that involves ensuring that we come up with rules that are open, that are transparent, and that any of the players in that business understands. those that want to do business in Nigeria, they want to see that the coast is clear. And if they don't, they will continue to hold on to their money. So that's something that I want to share with you so that you will understand that this is the short-term measures are ones that will be very, very important to us, myself and the team. Once we get in, it's something we will address right away.
So that's it. Congratulations, Nigeria. We have now a confirmed governor of the Central Bank of Nigeria, and obviously there's a lot of work ahead of him, and I'm glad he knows that, because he did mention some of them right there. Top on the list, obviously, is the value of Naira, which is connected inversely, though, to the demand for dollar and our FX and all of that. We have to drill down on this, some of the expectations from Mr. Cardoso now as the CBN governor. Right here in the studio, Mr. Robert Omotunde. He's the Chief Investment Officer with AfriInvest Asset Management Limited. Good morning, Mr. Omotunde. Good to have you on the show.
Good morning. It's my pleasure to be here.
Yeah, so I mean, we had to even postpone MPC, I guess, partly because we didn't have this confirmation. Did we miss anything?
Well, I don't think we did, because if you look at the last MPC meeting, it wasn't much to give to the market. It wasn't exciting, I must say. So perhaps the delay in the postponement of the meeting was perhaps to ensure that the new CBN governor, comes in and then let him run with the policies. Yesterday, again, showed what most of us have echoed in the last 9 years of the previous administration. The governor now, alluded to the fact that the central bank missed it. The central bank actually derailed from its core policy mandate, from its core legislative mandate, to other areas of, no major benefits to the economy. The last administration was filled with all sort of, rent-seeking, because...
Would you be referring to the interventions? We know that the
Yes.
former governor, Mr. Emefiele, was very passionate about interventions in every sector, almost every sector.
No, it was obvious. He was passionate about the intervention. But of course, his decision to run for the highest office in the land showed that that passion was misaligned. The passion would have been to vie for the office of the president and not to be the central bank governor. Because it is clear that if you are the central bank governor, your core policy mandate will be stabilize the prices, let the exchange rate be stable for an economy of this sort, put up an environment that allow growth of the economy to be achieved. Anything outside of that, they are secondary. In fact, to a very large extent, we had a lot of misplaced priorities.
So are you saying you don't expect Mr. Cardoso to go into the area of intervention? A lot of people, even with the complaints about, the anchor borrowers program and all of that, you don't expect, this administration of the CBN, to go into such?
It was clear. If you watch the screening exercise yesterday, it was clear to say that, and other deputy governors, that were screened alongside with him, they made it emphatic that, yes, their core mandate now is to bring the central bank back in line, because central bank went all political in the last 8 years, even though one of the major things Governor Emefiele promised, when he was being screened, and I remember very vividly in 2014 when he was being screened for that office, one of the things he said was that he was not going to be, he will run an apolitical central bank. But that was not the case, unfortunately, and this is where we find ourselves right now. And when you talk about those interventions, we can go on and on and on and on. Talk about all the intervention. The only intervention that I would say was really positive was the one that existed in the previous central bank's administration, the one that Governor Sanusi Lamido Sanusi put in place. That's the Anchor Borrowers program. I mean, not Anchor Borrowers program, MSMEs. That is the intervention program that was targeted at MSMEs, which was to, stimulate activities of the small and medium-scale enterprises in the country. Those ones were a bit sustained. But, we went into Anchor Borrowers program. Most of the loans that were disbursed, recovery rate was very low. And if you look at the rate of inflation we face now, above 25%, would you say that we achieved the objectives of Anchor Borrowers Program, which was to encourage a lot of local production, substitution of imported products for local? And now we are talking about food inflation hitting 29%. That's the scorecard of the result of Anchor Borrowers Program in the last 8-9 years of the previous administration.
There's also that controversy around ways and means, in that last administration. Obviously, the CBN surpassed the official limits allowed.
Absolutely. And I mean, blatantly surpassed. Because, I mean, if the law says that 5% of previous year's revenue, at best, if you work it based on government's number, maybe you're lucky to get a 600 billion, of which you are not supposed to disburse the next until the previous is paid. But what do we see? Today we are talking about 20 trillions in ways and means. I mean, that is outrageous, to say the least. And the consequence is the level of inflation that we're seeing in the economy at the moment. Because if you look at the level of inflation, I mean, the new team has a lot of work to do, right? And their primary focus will be put a rein on, general price levels, that is inflation, and then ensure that exchange rate is stable. But the problem that's been created that they have to grapple with is a lot. You're talking about a huge volume of money supply in the system, and the governor mentioned it yesterday. How do you control that much of liquidity that you have in the system? I'm an economist. We believe that inflation is always and everywhere a monetary phenomenon, as put by Milton Friedman. That great economist that we have. But if you look at the level of printing of currency, what you call ways and means, to the ordinary man, they may not really understand. It means that the central bank is printing money without economic activities backing it up. 20 trillion is a lot. And not just that, we now have a situation where monetary policy lost its anchor. In the last 9 years, the MPC was just meeting as a ritual every 2 months because it lost completely its anchor. Remember the last monetary policy decision, MPR was moved from 18.5 to 18.75. What happened in the market? The market just laughed over it because, again, there's nothing to move. You have MPR at 18.75. The highest market rate in the market today is 16%. What sort of a disparity is that? And at some point, it was even more massive. So MPR was doing his own, market rates were doing their own. It doesn't work that way. So one of the major policy objectives for the central bank is to ensure that monetary policy comes back to anchor on interest rates. Because right now, until we align it, because as it is not aligned, it's definitely misaligned. Perhaps I will advise that the MPC should at least try to bring back MPR to align with market rates and start from there. Because what we have now, it's, the major problem it puts, at the doorstep of the Monetary Policy Authority is that no matter what they do with MPR, they are not able to achieve their objective, the intended objective, which is to reduce the volume of money in circulation. If you don't, then inflation will keep chasing inflation and you will never meet it. And we can't run an economy like that.
So the issue of FX is obviously like priority for everyone now.
Absolutely.
And the broad perspective is that the way to solve it is obviously to increase our exports. That is beyond the central bank. Now, I guess that maybe that's what Mr. Emefiele was trying to do with all those interventions, bringing the farmers and the small businesses. Now, if we say that that's not the way to go for monetary policy, which is what the CBN is for, then how can we expect Mr. Cardoso to effectively and in a short term, because it's dire, the naira is about 1,000 naira now, get this FX issue into control?
I don't envy Dr. Cardoso. Honestly, he has a very huge task ahead of him. One of the things we got wrong in the last central bank administration was we were against markets. And there is no economy that thrives when you are fighting the market. Market is too efficient. It will always fight back. And that is the consequence of what we see with the naira today. So what I would advise is, and there are no short fixes, Nigerians have to face it. There are no short fixes. If anybody tells you that we will be able to do it in the short term, they are not being truthful. Because the path I see is we need to gradually move towards aligning the market. And you talk about export. Export is good. But one of the short-term fixes that we can have today, if you dissect the sources of foreign exchange earnings for Nigeria, remittances by far, used to be the biggest before all of these demand-side management and market manipulation that we saw with the central bank. The remittances flow into Nigeria, is not of $18-20 billion on an annual basis. They have not stopped. They only don't come through the official window today. Then we talk about investors and, what do you call it now? Capital importation through foreign portfolio investment, foreign direct investment. We've not been able to attract much foreign direct investment, again, because of what is happening at the fiscal, side. But on the monetary policy side, if we don't see FPI, it's a direct result of the efforts and activities of the central bank. So one of the things we can do, and again, I see that the new administration have been trying to attract a lot of foreign investors into the country. It doesn't make sense for them to come now. And I know what I'm saying. It doesn't make sense because the same country issues instruments in USD that are today yielding 12-11%. So they will buy Nigerian instruments in the Eurobonds market at 12-11%. There is no incentive for them to come to Nigeria and buy Naira at 16%. With all of the currency issues that we have, it doesn't just work. So the first thing to do, and they know when we are lying, they know when we are saying the truth. So when there is a misalignment, we say that we want to align the currency. Today, we are talking about the parallel market at 1,000 Naira to the dollar, and we are talking about I&E at 730, 740. Sorry, who is deceiving who? So the truth is that if the market will be allowed to do its job, today we have 43 items that are excluded from foreign exchange. Before now, in the early 2010, 2011, up until 2012, 2013, parallel market was just about 20% of the entire foreign exchange market in terms of volume. Today, after we excluded those 43 items, I dare say that the parallel market weight is closer to 50 to 60%. Now, you excluded 50%. Let's even say, for the sake of this argument, that is just 40%. You excluded 40% of markets from participating in the official window. Mind you, in this same market, you can buy and sell. Who says the central bank cannot come to the market to buy USD? We always think that the central bank must come and then sell. But this same market, where you have huge chunk of transactions going on every day in cash, in flows, central bank is completely oblivious of what is going on there because the central bank cannot participate in that market. I think the beginning is if the new government, the new government came in, we move exchange rate from 430 to 750. And let's be clear, since I have been an adult in Nigeria, the official market always catches up with the parallel market. It means that there's something right about that parallel market that we need to get involved in. Allow everybody to participate, see the same exchange rate, so that our country will not be laughed at. We've been made a laughing stock. You have I&E FX window, you have parallel, you have inflow, you have all sorts of rates in the market. So it's difficult for policy to be pushed.
So one thing I hear you say, which the president of BDCs had also said was, there's a lot of transaction going on in the informal. The remittances are not captured officially. Massive. So how do we break that boundary, that bond between the official and the unofficial, and bring at least the BDCs have been pardoned, now they are back?
It is simple. See, if this new government, the new central bank, does what we used to do and unwind all of the unorthodox policies of the last central bank, they will have done excellently well. Because in this same country, the remittances, all of the items that were excluded from foreign exchange, they were all in that market, right? Today, we have billions of dollars of transactions going on that central bank is not aware of. But these same transactions can come to the official window, and it is for the benefit of the country, whether we like it or not. The bulk proportion of our population is trading at that parallel market. When you see inflation in the market, it is reflective of what is going on in that parallel market, not the official window. How many people are getting FX at the official window anyways? So the main market that is functional in Nigeria today is the parallel market. Let's be truthful.
So are you saying if they unban those 43 banned items?
So let me tell you what it will do. You unban the 43 items, right? Don't forget, in that 43 items is rice, is an item which we call, the Eurobonds market. The Eurobonds market, Nigeria's Eurobonds market, Nigeria's Eurobonds outstanding alone is over $15 billion. Then we have Nigerian financial institutions who are playing those markets, okay? And the extent of their play is closer to 20 to 30%. So of the Eurobonds market, not just Nigeria, of all the currencies that are being issued, all of the transactions going on, central bank cannot participate, cannot benefit from it, because people buy and sell in that window, but the central bank do not know exactly what is going on in that window. Do you understand? So when you bring all of the items together, what it will do is that first, you cannot make policies without proper market data. You will even have a sense of what is the total aggregate demand and supply for FX in Nigeria. That's where to start. And then when you have that information, it then helps you to make the appropriate policies, including central bank coming to that window to buy, because the transaction in that space is huge and massive. Then you will have single market rate, and then you can then do interventions that will be effective. Not the sort of intervention that you put more FX in the market, the rates go up. But when you want to target the market, because we have the sense of aggregate demand and supply, any intervention we do will be more effective at that point in time. That's where to start the FX problem from. And it's very important. They need to get on the table and do that very quickly.
Says the Chief Investment Officer of AfriVest Asset Management, Mr. Robert Omotunde. Thank you so much. The central bank governor knows that there's a lot of work to be done. He acknowledges that, and we do hope that he takes, the counsel that will be effective in a short time. Sounds like we need a short time period. Thank you so much, and happy holiday. Thank you for spending part of your holiday with us.
Thank you.
Let's take a break now. When we come back, and we do have an energy solution that might be of interest to you. Join us after the break. You're welcome back. Well, on Tuesday, September the 26th, OON announced a $200,000 investment in Enerplus PayGo Solutions Limited, a clean energy company focused on providing energy as a service, that's EAAS solution, to MSMEs and residences in the Niger Delta region. The investment will expand Enerplus PayGo's sales and operational infrastructure to support the scaling of its EAAS model and deployment of its 1 kilowatts to 5 kilowatts capacity solar system to households and small businesses within Port Harcourt, Rivers State and its environs. I wonder why they're not in Lagos, but I guess we have someone here who can answer that for us. Priska Izuzu, the Chief Executive Officer of Enerplus PayGo Solutions Limited. Forgive me, I'm trying to get used to the name Enerplus, but anything energy is of interest, and I wonder why you decided to go to River State. It's interesting that, you're considering households and small businesses, because, that's not small. More than 90% of businesses are captured right there. So it will do a lot of empowerment to them, depending on your price, though. But tell us about, your products, and how you hope to capture this group of individuals whom we know have low income level.
Okay, good. So Enerplus PayGo, like you have mentioned, our main focus is looking at these small businesses and individuals who ordinarily would not be able to afford the huge capital outlay to have an inverter and solar system. So what we do is provide them the service, so they are not bugged with, when am I going to make the money to be able to have an inverter? So we set up a system and give them a payment model, and then they subscribe according to their capacities, and then they are able to have clean energy services for their business, to boost productivity, for their homes to be efficient in what they do. So that is basically what we are looking at as Enerplus PayGo in the energy space.
So are your sources solar?
Yes, we have solar mainly.
Mainly
Yes,
solar. And you're hoping to help them solve the problem of especially initial investment or initial capital to earn it, because we know solar at this time is really expensive.
Yes.
But we have other companies doing the same or offering the same. Well, what's different about you?
Okay. For other companies, most times you see that maybe they give you a solution that may be too big for what you need. But what we do is some sort of a shared economy between these people. So you have a cluster of shops coming together using a system, making it more affordable. You know, for instance, if you want to maybe buy a tin of milk, not everybody can afford a full tin of milk. So there are sachets, small ones that people can afford. So those are the kind of packet-tailored solutions for these small businesses.
When you say affordable, give us an idea. Because yes, affordable for you may not be affordable for me.
Exactly. But when I say affordable, I mean really affordable, because there are people on packages where they pay just about 450 naira a day, and they have the energy that they need for that day. So they don't need to pay more. Because if you say, okay, go and buy a system, yes, they may buy a system, but they may not need all that power right away. So just what they need, that's what we tailor for them, and that's what they pay for daily for their need.
So you just talked about cluster. That would be small businesses.
Yes.
But you also have your eyes on households.
We also do households, communities, small setups where you have people together. We also focus in that area also.
So do you think Lagos doesn't need this? I live in Lagos, for crying out loud, and you took it to River State.
Yes, that is the heart of our business. Of course, we are looking at expansion, and that is the beauty of this kind of synergy between Enaplas Paygo and Olon, where we have funds to be able to expand, not just in the South-South, but in other regions in Nigeria. But we are starting from the South-South because we see a very low acceptance of solar and renewable energy products there. So we want to start from there, build the temple, and then we'll expand to other cities in Nigeria.
Build the temple. Yeah. All right, and now you have $200,000 to work with. What stage are you at now? Are you operational? Do you have 5 households in your cluster or businesses? Then what will this $200,000 do?
Yes, we've gone past the test phase, if I may put it that way. So we have over 70 persons on this system already, where we have tested the system, see it is working, to be able to get this kind of partnership with Olon. So now that we have this kind of funding on ground, we have a very fantastic team at Paygo who is just waiting to hear go. So as soon as we get done, as we've clicked the deal, the thing next for the team is to be able to deploy these systems, get more people using these systems, and then be able to get more people adapting to the use of solar energy, both in their businesses and their private.
Are you finding it difficult to convince people to, you know, embrace or adopt this solar system?
You will be shocked that there are some people we meet out there who don't even believe that solar can be able to power their appliances. So yes, a lot of education needs to go into that space, and that is part of what this funding is going to help us to do, sensitize people to see that they have a need and solar can be able to solve it, and then able to give them opportunity to use solar to be able to solve the energy needs that they have. So yes.
And then we see you already have an increase in revenues recorded from 2021. I thought you were a startup.
Yes. That revenue is that way because, you know, when you give someone something they like, they cluster around you. Provide a solution to people's need, people's challenge. They are ready to grab it. So we brought out a solution that was solving the need, a core need in businesses in the South-South. And there were so many people who were ready to go on that solution. So that is how we're able to grow the system that quickly, and then our revenue base also.
Very interesting. So now that you have the funding, so funding is not a problem, $200,000.
Yeah.
You have the idea, you have already started, you've done your research. What's next? How do people reach you? Do people have to come to your office to make a request? How does the transaction with individuals or businesses start?
Okay. So we are going to leave maybe our online handles for people who want to reach out to us, but we have a very good marketing team at the Enaplas Paygo Solutions that reach out to these businesses and tell them this is what we have to offer. Hey, you have a problem, we have a solution. Let's give you the solution. So we already have a team, but we know that the team will not be able to do that all. So we are also going to go online, which is also the beauty of some of what we are doing right now. Let people know that these solutions exist. It is good for their businesses, it's good for their household, let's collaborate to make this transition into renewable energy what's going
Yeah,
for.
and it's the way of the world at this time.
Definitely.
All right, thank you so much, and we wish you the best. Wish more that you will come to Lagos, their households.
We hope to do that. We hope to do that. But it's a gradual process.
Thank you so much, Priska Izuzu, the Chief Executive Officer of Edoplas Paygo Solutions Limited.
Thank
and we
you.
wish you the very best.
Thank
Happy
you.
holiday too.
Thank you also. Have a great day, you too.
You too.
Yeah.
All right, let's take a breather. We'll be back for AFEX. It's AFEX time now, commodities market. That's where we're going to now. We first of all give you a summary of how the market traded between September the 19th to September the 25th. And we can say that in that week we saw mixed performance across key indicators. Turnover fell by 6.10%, closing the week at 3.86 billion naira from 4.31 billion naira. Number of volumes traded was, however, up 2.61%. Number of deals traded rose 0.41%, closing at 214 from 152 in the last trading week. The AFEX Commodity Index witnessed an increase of 0.06%, while the AFEX Export Index maintained its stance at 229.25. The volume of contracts traded witnessed an increase in volume across maize, soybean, paddy rice, and sorghum. Now let's look at the prices across exports. We can tell you for cashew nut, it was a green movement, 3.41% up, adding 19 naira 20 kobo to close at 581 naira 90 kobo for a kilogram of cashew nut. And then we see cocoa also recovering from about 2 weeks drop. 0.23% is what it added. That's 4 naira 48 kobo to close at 1,972 naira 37 kobo for a kilogram. Next is paddy rice, remaining unchanged for the week, still closing at 456 naira 13 kobo for a kilogram of paddy rice. That means if you added some money there, you may not have made no loss and no gains. Same with soybeans, still closed at 377 naira 88 kobo at the close of trade on September the 25th. Sesame is in that category, closed at 1,247 naira 57 kobo for a kilogram. No movement also in that space, in the sesame space. Ginger, 989 naira 83 kobo for a kilogram. Also, no movement for the week ended September the 25th. And maize is, however, on the flip side. It lost 13.36% and closed at 347 naira 10 kobo for a kilogram. We are back to the space of no movements. Wheat, 440 naira. And then we see a lot of things happening in the global space when it comes to wheat. But for Nigeria, we did not see any movement. Do remember that AFEX will always tell you to go to their website and follow them on their handles. You can get more information on all that they have to talk about. So you want to find out how you can jump on the commodity platform, you can always do that. It's still AFEX time. Now we have discussing the FETC that forms a part of AFEX Innovative Financial Instrument. It was created to meet alternative investment needs, and the exchange-traded commodity, the ETC, we just told you the movement right there, has historically outperformed inflation and perfectly hedged against currency devaluation, therefore making it a strategic portfolio diversification asset for impressive investment returns. Perhaps you want to break that down and know how it concerns you or how you can get involved with that. We have Zara Dogo joins us virtually. She's the head market growth AFEX and to tell us more about this. Hi, Zara. Happy holidays to you.
Good morning. Same to you.
So what has been the key standout between last year and this year in terms of, this issuance and performance?
So just to start, the FETT means Fair Trade Exchange Traded Commodity. And it's basically a basket of different commodities that have different allocations, making up the FETC instrument as a whole. And just looking at some of the things that happened in 2023 as against 2022, the first thing that was quite obvious for this instrument was the issuance size, as well as the number of investors that played in this space this year. So this year we saw an issuance size of over 2 billion, and we saw a lot of investors playing in this space, mainly because we had the conventional FETC, and we also had the Sharia compliant FETC, allowing for ethical investors to come in and play in this space. Also, this is the third issuance that we are doing, so we've had a lot of experience in managing this portfolio, and we have a better understanding of how to allocate the commodities within this basket. So there was a lot of experience this year, which gave rise to better returns for this instrument. So for FETC 2023, FETC 1 did a return of about 48% in 9 months, and FETC 2 did a return of about 54%. Comparing this to 2022, we saw FETC 1 do a return of about 31%, whilst FETC 2 did about 20%. But this is also due to the resilience of the commodities market. I'm looking at the challenging factors that have affected the country this year. So those are some of the trends that we saw pan out in 2023 for the FETC.
So you've talked about those key events and markets circumstances, but how can we say this affected, the overall closing percentage of the FETC?
So we have the annual commodities survey that we release every year towards the end of the year. So you will see that go into the market in December for our investors to read, understand, and look at the forecast for the next year, as well as look at some of the factors that affected the commodities market in the prevailing year. And for the annual commodities survey that we released last year, we emphasized the imbalance in the supply and demand of commodities that were invested. And as a result, we saw opportunities for investors to make superior returns. And also looking at the removal of subsidy that happened earlier in the year, this also caused a rally in the price of commodities. And some of the commodities that, all commodities were affected, but then these commodities were also factored into the FETC instrument. And so for investors that locked in to the FETC instrument at the beginning of the year, they saw outperforming returns at maturity, which was here in September.
So the FETC signals the beginning of the harvest season. What do you see happening in the market going forward?
So just to note, it signals a close proximity to the beginning of the harvest season. So FETC matures towards the end of September. And for most commodities that are listed on the exchange, you will see the harvest season starts towards October and November. And just to answer your second question about what we see for the market, in terms of what we see happening towards harvest season, we expect crops like maize and soybean to give us good performances, mainly because we had a good year. Rainfall was good, the weather was good as well compared to what we saw last year. So for last year, due to the Russia-Ukraine war, the price of fertilizer was up. And we also had flooding affect the volumes that came into the market at harvest season. So for this year, we've seen good rainfall, we've seen good weather conditions. So we're expecting the performance of these commodities to do well. And so these two commodities are also factored into the FETC instruments.
So what are our expectations based on this for next year?
So next year, we are definitely expecting a larger size in terms of issuance. We're looking at bigger investors coming in. As I mentioned, returns did about 54% and 48%. So we're expecting more investors to come into this space for the next issuance that will be taken into market. This is also the third issuance that we have done. So we've been able to learn from whatever errors that occurred towards the first and the second issuance. There's going to be definitely better management. We're expecting more investors. We're expecting a bigger size. As I just mentioned, this is the third issuance. So for the first one, which was towards 2020, 2021, that was a size of about 500 million. For the second issuance, that was over $1 billion. For the third one that matured a few days ago, that was over 2 billion. So we're definitely expecting a larger size for the next issuance. We're also expecting more issuers to list variants or variations of the FETC on the exchange. And I mean, for investors that were unable to key into the FETC at the beginning of this year, we're definitely taking it to market again sometime towards December, January. So you're more than able to play into this instrument once it's open for issuance.
All right, Zara Dogo, thank you so much for giving us the plans of AFEX for next year, and do enjoy the rest of the holiday.
Very much. Same to you. Bye.
We're still in the markets, but now it's the money markets with Will Ibong. Yeah.
Hi, good morning. As in, I don't have any good news to report now. It's been two straight days of
CBN
losses.
Governor, that's enough good news.
Yeah, good news, but let's see how the markets react to his address at the screening yesterday. If they were satisfied with what he told the markets, you know, the FX issue is a big one. We're going to hear from our guest today, but markets yesterday down 0.34%. We lost about 126 billion naira yesterday. Well, we're still sitting pretty at the 66,000. Nothing to worry about from what other analysts have said. But we're just going to have our analysts talk about it. We're bringing in Mukhtar Mohammed, is the CEO, Finance with Mukhtar. Good morning, Mukhtar. It's good to have you on the program today. Mukhtar, yesterday the Senate we did see that confirmation of the new CBN governor, Yemi Cardoso, by the Senate and other deputies that were nominated by the president. What do you think about this? What are your thoughts about this address at the screening yesterday?
Yeah, thank you, Will, for having me. Well, I don't think there's much to what he has to say with the Senate. I think maybe he's keeping his card to his chest. The only thing he said was he will make sure that he brings stability to the exchange, to the FX market, and also he's trying also to make sure that inflation comes down. I have my challenge when I hear him speak, and a lot of people have said, "Oh, he's not in the financial sector." You know, but my own stake is I hope he goes there and to be independent, because not because you are appointed by the president, then you tend to forget that the CBN also has its independency. If you watch what Adam Oshomole was saying, has been my fear, whereby the executive will want to hijack the CBN, because Adam Oshomole was saying that there's no part in the war whereby you have the executive, not the monetary policy committee, not working with the physical side directly in bringing down the exchange rate. I disagree sadly with that. I said the monetary policy will look at what is on ground and try to come up with their monetary policy. And the physical side will have to do what they have to do to bring down the rate, not for the CBN to begin to fight to bring down rate. And that's what happened during the time of Emefiele, CBN doing direct intervention into a lot of things. And that have led us to where we are today in terms of the kind of news we are getting from the special investigation. So my fear is let the executive allow the independence of the CBN, and the CBN allow the independence of the executive, and then we'll see how they can. There's a place that there's synergy between both people. There's a place for synergy, but I think that's going to be should be driven by data and policy, not by political decisions.
Thank you so much, Mukhtar Mohammed. We do hope that he's able to revive confidence in investors, especially foreign investors, especially we are on unclassified status right now, according to the FTSE Russell, especially with regards to the FX issue, FX repatriation issues. Thank you so much, Mukhtar Mohammed, CEO, Finance with Mukhtar, for sharing your perspective on Business Morning.
My pleasure, Will.
So, this is the matter that the markets are worried about. We'll see how he's able to revive investors' confidence.
When the market opens tomorrow,
we'll see the reaction to this address at the screening, if it was able to win their hearts.
Yeah, thank you so much, Will. We'll see you at 1:30. Okay, just before we go to London, let's just take a breather. We'll be back. Welcome back to watching Business Morning right here on Channels Television. And we'll just drop by in London, where Juliana is standing by. Juliana, good morning and happy holiday from Nigeria to the UK right there. But we see that UK's largest untapped oil field has been approved by regulators. And I think it confirms that that's drive towards zero carbon is being slowed down in the UK.
Good morning, Annie. Happy holidays. It's a shame you haven't got your feet up this morning. But yeah, you know, this is a really controversial decision. Expect there to be many more scandalous headlines coming out of this and lots of protests. And that's because this morning British regulators have given the green light to a huge Norwegian oil and gas giant called Equinor to develop the controversial Rosebank field, which is in the North Sea, about 25 miles off the Shetland Isles. And this is because it has untapped oil fields. Now, we know that Rosefield has had these oil fields for many, many years, but as you said, the British government are supposed to be world leaders in getting to this net zero society. But alas, we've had the war in Ukraine. Because of that war, we know that energy security has been at the top of the minds for European governments, but particularly here in the UK, because of course we are an isolated island. So yes, the green light has been given to this Norwegian oil giant, and it's anticipated that from 2027, 325 million barrels of oil per day will be drilled out of this. Now, already we've had some reactions from opposition members of the House. It's been described as being morally obscene. We're waiting to hear from Prime Minister Rishi Sunak as to why this decision has been made, although I've explained about the energy security, but how we are going to reach those net zero targets. We've just come off the UNGA. We've heard from Antonio Guterres talking about the fact that, you know, we're already past the point where we've done so much damage to the world. We've also got COP28 coming up in a few weeks. So, yeah, very controversial decision just coming out of the UK that a Norwegian oil giant has been given the green light to drill from Britain's biggest untapped oil field.
Yeah, Juliana, I guess this also goes back to what some of the emerging economists are saying. I mean, if the big guys are telling us to cut down on our emissions, what are they doing? Yeah. Where is the funding and all of that? But we will continue during Business Incorporated with the other conversations in the UK. Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you.
All right, now let's rush to the crypto market.
Yes, it's a rush. It's a rush. Yeah, and a rush to a red market.
Rush to a red market. Oh,
yes.
I should have stayed in London. I didn't know it was a red market. I would have stayed in London.
It's red, but we still need to report it, even though it's red.
Okay, all right.
We see Ethereum there in the green, BNB also in the green, but a lot of red. That's the color. Right now, let's look at the top cryptocurrencies we track. We see fear greed index, fear. That's fear. The market investors are still quite fearful in this market. We see Bitcoin there. Let's look at the top cryptocurrencies now that we track. We see Bitcoin, 8 a.m. this morning, down 0.23%. Ethereum, below that 1,600 level, 0.01% marginal gain there. And we see Cardano, even though we've seen some altcoins giving some good gains. Let's talk about now, it's all about our new central bank governor. And definitely we know, CBN, central banks are normally, quite hawkish when it comes to crypto. So let's talk to Christopher Eniayemo now, co-founder, Sahara ICP Hub, West Africa. Great to have you, Chris. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you for having me, Ladi. It's nice to be here.
So, yeah, we know central bankers, they're not fond of decentralization, and that's what, cryptocurrency normally brings to the table. So tell me, what are your expectations? What are you seeing for CBN stance on cryptocurrency in Nigeria, as we have a new CBN governor? What are you seeing?
First of all, I'd say congratulations to Mr. Ami Cardoso, the new CBN governor. And also, I think he's just taken the office and he has a lot to do. He has to settle into the office. But I hope we can come to the terms and get to relate with the CBN and the CBN government on the regulations that has to be put in place to enable the smooth operation of cryptocurrencies in Nigeria.
Right, and talking about, cryptocurrency, there's also discussions about blockchain technology. We have the national blockchain policy. What are the prospects for blockchain adoption in Nigeria, in your view?
All right, so I think the Nigerian blockchain policy focuses on 3 categories. That's talent development, blockchain adoption, and innovation. Now, talent development in cryptocurrency sectors actually requires collaboration with the CBN and its governor. And cryptocurrency operations largely involve offering financial service. And this domain has to be regulated by CBN. The development should encompass training of individuals in secure insurance of the currency, which include essential security measures, and establish banks that can also encourage emerging companies to explore assets, with these assets being held by bank or under the custody of appropriate government, presenting alternative IPOs, which often entail significant restrictions. The initiative is designed should be a collaborative effort between the CBN and the relevant agencies. And also blockchain adoptions. The policy explicitly outlines that the startup commercial banks offering financial services will be regulated to facilitate the safe and responsible use of currencies in Nigeria. So all this can be done without bringing the CBN on board.
Right here in Nigeria, definitely, looking at, our financial, system and stock markets right here, are you seeing some kind of tilt towards, blockchain technology, when it comes to buying and selling stocks, in Nigeria? Are you seeing that coming up?
Yes. Statistics has shown that in 2022 alone, BTC traded over $400 billion worth P2P in Nigeria alone. Now, I see that once we can partner with the regulatory bodies, like a couple of cryptocurrency projects that are coming in, get to partner with the regulatory bodies, we can see that tilting to the adoption of cryptocurrency. Because I think the in-era is a step towards Nigeria adopting the whole cryptocurrency. But I think the CBN needs to develop a stable coin that can be used across different sectors, so that individuals will not end up going for USDT and USDC, which are stable coins that they can use across different platforms or different financial system in DeFi, DAO, and other autonomous organizations. I feel the best line of action is for the CBN to create a stable coin that can interact with every other organization, every other parastatals, DeFi, so that Nigerians that actually use some of these cryptocurrencies for business can now use the Nigerian stable coin that has use cases that can be used in across different sectors.
Right. Thank you so much, Chris Enyahimo, co-founder, Sarah ISP Hub, West Africa. Great having your perspective today. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Ladi.
All right, so stable coin, Nigeria. You heard him from
CBN, expectation too.
Expectations, CBN. We know the stance, with the previous governor. Who knows what's coming next?
We'll keep our fingers crossed.
Fingers crossed.
Thank you so much, Ladi. All right, so that's it on the program this holiday. I do wish you a very restful holiday. Everybody needs to rest, to go out there and make the most of their day by the next day. I'm Ini John Mekwa. Do remember to join Will Ibong at 1:30 for Business Incorporated. There'll be update from the world of business. As for now, I guess I can get some rest too. Bye-bye.